valuable company in the world right now is NVIDIA.
China gonna have to bow down, man. China is going to have to bow
down. Good evening, and welcome to the nightly recap powered by Gokhshtein News Network.
Hey everybody, welcome to the recap. Egos flying everywhere. Bill Maher, who I like, I'm a fan of, because again, I don't agree with him on everything. I was actually on Bill Maher's show a long time ago, Politically Incorrect. I was doing my Gen X political campaign. All I did was keep referring back to the issues, and I had, like the idea, like just no matter what anybody asks you, just put your message out, and that's what I did. And it was just killing the vibe of the show. And at a break, he literally was like, will you stop fucking you're killing my show. Like, it's like trying to make this a fun show. And you just keep going back to generational equity. And this is the problem and whatever. I was like, yeah, well, I'm doing my job. Became friends with his producer, who was no longer his producer at, 10 years later. And it was like, God, Bill Maher never forgot that. He was like, wow, this guy just wouldn't stop. Also ran into him at the Playboy Mansion, and the only time I've been to the Playboy Mansion was a New Year's Eve party in like 94, 95. No. Sorry, I got my decades wrong. 2003, 2004, near the end of the Playboy Mansion. Interesting guy. Definitely has a thing, he definitely had a thing for black women. It was again, I don't judge anybody's preferences or how much they want to have sex, but he was kind of a misogynist at some level. Maybe he's changed. I didn't know him well. The Playboy Mansion was trippy, be honest. They had the doors bolted open. They used to have rooms you could go in. There's a bathroom, and then there was like a changing room next to the bathroom. People would go in and have sex, so they now had them bolted open so you couldn't do it. I was there at the days of the cleaned up Playboy Mansion. Although obviously, everybody was walking around body paint naked, serving drinks and whatever. And at the time, I was kind of having a thing with one of Hugh Hefner's girls, and she lived in the mansion, and he was not a fan of them having outside relationships, although he didn't say you can't, but kind of did. Because they were just like, he had his main girlfriend, and she was like in the side piece girlfriends. And I met him. She was like, he's not so happy. He knows you and I have a thing going on. Stories I should write in a book. I should call it the uncensored Forrest Gump. Back to egos. Bill Maher is all bent out of shape. Who knows if he's really bent out of shape. But he thinks Jimmy Kimmel doesn't like him because Bill Maher was a big defender of Jimmy Kimmel's, backing him when he got suspended, saying, I'm on your side and you don't have to pretend to like Disneyland anymore. And he called ABC Always Been Caving or something like that. Always be caving. And, Jimmy Kimmel didn't thank him when he was talking about people who'd supported him. So he's like, I guess he doesn't like me anymore. And he didn't actually agree with what Kimmel had said about Charlie Kirk's assassin, but didn't think he should lose his job. This is on his, Club Random podcast, and Michael Rappaport was his guest. But again, I'd agree. I don't necessarily think what he said was right, but you don't lose your job over it. And Bill Maher knows, because he was fired from ABC, Politically Incorrect, the first in 2002. Was he on ABC? Yeah, he was on ABC at the time, because of comments he made about the hijackers. So he knows what it's like to get fired for saying something. I give him credit for that. Guy's been on television forever, just to point out, forever, when you think about it. The Longitude. I guess I was on his show before 2002, because he got canceled in 2002. So I guess I was before that. What do you know? Time, my friends, goes fast. So Bitcoin, I want to talk a minute about Bitcoin. Good old Bitcoin, up and down every day. I swear, if I look at it in the morning, it's 111. At night, it's 104 in the morning, it's 107. Then it's 116. Then it's 109. All I can say is Bitcoin is definitely going to keep going up, and I'm going to stick by it. I think by the end of the year, Bitcoin tops 125 and stays up there. Basically stays up there. Starts bouncing between 125, 127 maybe. I think by the end of the year, that's reasonable. I think we're going to see a boost end of November. I think one, the Fed cutting interest rates. Two, the tariff stuff kind of sorting itself out. Three, the history of the Bitcoin cycle. I think that's where we go. I moved my camera way up high, and now it's just like glaring in my eyes. I kind of want to drop it down, but I'll leave it alone. I think we see Bitcoin ascendant into the end of the year, but I'm not a chart reader. It's funny. The people who read the charts, it's almost like Landy. It's almost like they're like psychics. It's like, I'm reading the charts. Like, I'm not making fun of him, by the way. The guy's a genius at what he does. And Landy, if you're watching, I want you to come on and talk Bitcoin with me. Plus everything else you can't disclose who you are for. But I'm not a chart reader. But I do follow the big picture trends and what's happening. And look, Bitcoin's market cap's not big enough to not be knocked off course by a big whale or a big institutional player doing something. But I think it's steadily on. And again, even when it hits 111 or 107, I'm still making money because of when I bought it. And people who bought it at 100 are making money. And people who bought it at 110 are losing a little money, but they'll make it back in a couple days. I mean, it definitely does this. It does. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. It does this, but it's always going here. It never goes like that. It's never gone. It just bounces between a low and it's high and back down. Maybe drops a little between its last low, but not too much. That's where the Landy chart readers come in. But I would say I don't think it's crazy to imagine kind of a steadfast 125 Bitcoin by the end of the year. Nothing to do with the next point I was going to talk about, which is free speech. England, so I didn't know this. England's arresting about 12,000 people a year for things they say online. That's a lot. I mean, when you think about it, for stuff you said online. I mean, just made a statement they didn't like. Wrote something on X or Instagram or wherever, and they arrest you. And that's sheer out 1984 thought police stuff, right? I mean, theoretically, if I made a really disparaging comment right now, they could technically, like, you could arrest me for it. That's the idea, right? Like, that is the ultimate definition of killing free speech. I mentioned this a long time ago. There was an Irish comedian, Graham Linehan, who was, he wasn't arrested. Well, no, he was arrested, but then they dropped it because he'd made comments online about transgender men being women and saying you're not really women. No, he wasn't like, F them, they should all die. He didn't threaten. He just was like disparaging, going, you're not a woman. Sorry, like you don't qualify. And they arrested him. I mean, I've heard it compared to like a Monty Python skit, like of a fascist state, but like a democracy that's turned fascist. And the irony is that one of the core members of Monty Python came out, and John Cleese, I believe it was, and said, I'm a liberal, basically. I'm all for trans people, but you can't be arresting people for this stuff. He's like, are you kidding me? Like, go arrest the people who are like shooting up neighborhoods. You're arresting a guy for making a joke. I don't even agree with his politics, but you can't go arrest him. Here's what the police statement said. It's interesting. They were like, the man in his 50s was arrested on suspicion of inciting violence. This is in relation to posts on X. He is not English. Wow. It's just that. Wow. That sounds like something out of 1984. The man in his 50s was arrested on suspicion of inciting violence. He didn't incite any violence. You can read the post. He made the comments in the US, and he's from Ireland. So that's where this gets scary. He wasn't Britain. He isn't British. He's an Irish dude who made the comments in the US on Twitter/X, and they arrested him. So the problem is they're going to pressure social media platforms to enforce it, right? They have a thing called the British Online Safety Act. It's called the OSA. And man, safety over freedom. It sound like COVID? Safety over freedom. Safety over freedom. Sound like totalitarianism? Totalitarianism. Safety over freedom. That was COVID. Safety over freedom. Now, it was false safety. It was a lied about safety. It was a Potemkin safety. That's TSA, safety over freedom. We're going to search everything, even though terrorists could probably get shit through, and the FBI's always proven we've got stuff through TSA. We're going to search everything and keep every bottle and everything you have out. Safety over freedom. When you put safety over freedom, you are essentially a totalitarian leaning state. Safety, safe words, safe spaces, safe over freedom. If we give you freedom, you might do unsafe things. So we're going to keep you safe. That is the essence of every totalitarian society and political system in history. It's what happened in COVID. They put safety over freedom. You don't get to be free. You don't get to do your own thing. You don't get to go to the beach. We're going to say your safety is more important, even though the beach is the safest place you could be. It becomes kind of a paradoxical hypocrisy. Safety over freedom. That's anybody tells you safety over run as far as you can. Freedom over safety any day of the week. Give me liberty or give me death, right? That famous, American, revolutionary statement. Freedom over safety. Give me liberty or give me death. Not make sure I'm safe at whatever cost. There's a social platform called 4chan, which is kind of caught in the crossfires of this British thing. And the British government said, if you don't comply, we'll consider it a criminal offense. And 4chan, to its credit, and they're an American company, was like, no, we won't comply. And they've been fined like whatever, $20,000 or whatever. But they're going to get fined a lot more. And Wikipedia said we won't do it. We won't play by these rules. We are in kind of an existential battle at this point. And I'm not one of these people who's going to throw communism, socialism words out there like whatever. I don't care what you call yourself, how you want to label the parties. We are in a thought battle. And if you think it's better to censor thought, words, speech, expression, and by the way, I'm going to be honest, I'm okay with like Portland. I mean, you shouldn't be burning buildings and cars and stuff, but I'm pretty good letting you go pretty far. And we'll arrest you, you go too far. But you start trying to censor people's, and we did it in COVID. We censored action, we censored thought, we censored speech. You said the wrong thing, you posted the wrong thing, you gave what they call disinformation, their words, not yours, misinformation, disinformation. You were censored. You didn't say what we said is true, even though it turned out what you were saying was true. You were censored. Like once you go down that path, it's scary. And I watched how fast we went down that path with COVID, like how quickly everyone complied, locked themselves up, didn't go out of the house, put on cloth masks, panicked left, right, and center, and agreed to be censored in their actions, their thoughts, their speech, their behaviors, like en masse. I sometimes think, and I know people who think this was all an experiment to see how far you could push people. I never bought it for a second. Not that. I never bought the agreement to do that. I refused. I never stayed a day inside my house. I went out every day, even in the curfews in Los Angeles. And then finally I left and went to Florida, the free state of Florida. Man, we are easily manipulated, and COVID showed it. Scare people, safety over freedom. Safety over freedom. Lock your kids up, put masks on them. Safety over freedom. Look at the price we paid for that. Whew. Okay, divergent, but I can't even pretend there's a real bridge to this, but it's been on my mind. The Mandami campaign. I said it in my show, Rob Nelson Live, in the last hour. Mandami, of course, will be the mayor of New York, despite the fact that Trump just endorsed Cuomo, which is kind of funny in and of itself. Like, that's what we've come to. Trump endorses Andrew Cuomo. I've told people before, I met Andrew Cuomo years ago when he was married to one of the Kennedy kids, and inside Hickory Hill, the Robert, not RFK Jr., RFK Senior's home. The whole family was at the table. Ethel Kennedy was drunk. She had a drinking problem, understandable. She kind of dealt with a lot. And Andrew Cuomo was just the biggest jerk to her. And to me and to Bobby Kennedy's youngest son, who I was working with, Doug, on a political campaign. And I was like, wow, this guy's a jerk. And at that point in time, he wasn't governor or anything. It was right before he was Secretary of Clinton's Health and HUD Secretary, Housing and Urban Development. That is such a sidebar that I went there, but you can watch and see like his personality, and he's a hardcore Dem, and Trump's endorsing him because can't have the commie taking over New York. First of all, the commie's going to take over New York. Secondly, New York's going to be just fine. The world won't fall any more than America fell after the January 6th. New Yorkers will go on being New Yorkers. Will he do some damage? Yeah, probably like push a lot of companies to leave. I'm going to guess will happen. It's going to probably mess up a lot of middle and upper income people's lives. Price controls will be a disaster. Free transit, low rent housing for everybody won't work. Can't tax enough people to get it. There's a fundamental imbalance in the economic structure. You can't fix it by just jamming the high-end earning individuals into paying more. Is that socialist? Yes. So I'm not saying he's not a socialist. He says he's a socialist. I just think the labels are irrelevant. He's addressing people's pain points. People are in pain at the cost of life. They're in pain at what it costs to live. They're in pain at what it costs to survive. They're in pain at the downside of what it looks like long term. They're worried about their kids' economic future. They're worried about their own survival. They're worried about kind of the conflict we're experiencing. There are so many pain points. He's addressing them. Doesn't mean he's got the right answers, but he's the only candidate actually addressing their pain points. You win every time. James Carville. It's the economy, stupid. You win every time you address the pain points. But I like this. There's a Palestinian American activist, Linda Sarsour. I might say her name wrong. I hope I didn't get it wrong. Sarsour, I think it is. And she's been almost a mentor to Mandami. And she came out and said, I love this. She's like, I'm going to hold him accountable. I'm going to hold him accountable to fulfill his campaign promises, which includes dismantling the NYPD unit that deals with terrorism, protests, and riots. Okay, now, there we go. This is an activist at work. She's like, oh, he's not. She said, she did a live stream. She said, just because I supported him doesn't mean we will let him do whatever the hell he wants when he gets to City Hall. He's going to do what he said. Oh, get ready. Get ready. Just want you all to know, I'm not going to work for the Zoran administration. I'm not going to work in City Hall because guess what? There got to be people like me willing to stay outside. I'm going to be the enforcer. I'm going to keep this train on the track, and he's going to do what he promised. Oof. I mean, politics is dirty. It's ugly. Big city politics like that, there's a lot of compromises. I have no idea what Mandami really intends to do. I know what he said he's going to do. I'm going to guess half of what he wants to do, he can't do, won't be able to do. Some things he may not even mean to do. He just said he would. I'm not saying there ain't going to be a whole lot of turmoil and chaos in New York City. I'm just saying it's not going to be the end of New York City or the end of America. I mean, this woman helped him get where he is. You know, I didn't even know this. He was on the Muslim Democratic Club of New York. Wow, it doesn't even get more specific than that. You're the Muslim Democratic Club of New York. I guess there's probably the Jewish Democratic Club of New York. Is there the White Cracker? Can I be in the White Cracker Democratic Club of somewhere? Crazy times we live in, people. Yeah, there is, let's be heartfelt for a second. There is such a need for honest talk and transparency. No games, no filters. Everybody's, everybody's playing. Everybody's promised, and even Trump, like, again, I love some of what he's done. I've said this before. He's been an amazing, I love his disruptive style. I love how he's turned things on its head. I love that he's kind of reordering things. We've been stuck in a mold for 80 years. It worked for a while. I love he's reordering the economic priorities, the trade policies, the balance of power with our partners in Europe and NATO. I love it. Just love it. And I even love that he was like, enough. Like, we are going to, I'll show you how you can stop having people pour over the borders. But people, he's not God. He's not Jesus. And maybe Jesus isn't God. So I'm not a Catholic or Christian in that way. It's okay to disagree with him. It's okay to say you did something wrong here. Like, you don't have to, again, with the immigration stuff, it's okay to say, no, it's not okay to uproot people who've been here for 15, 20 years and root them up because they broke a law. Well, a lot of people broke a law. A lot of people did something wrong. You're going to ruin their life over it? Like, it's fine. Get rid of the criminal scumbags. Get rid of anybody who's coming in the last 4 or 5 years. You haven't been here long enough. If in the last 5 years, you walked over that border, bye-bye. But don't disrupt communities, families. That's just evil, horrible. But we're at a point where it's sort of like you got to be one side or the other. I'm going back to Jon Stewart, like, which I talked about in my show earlier, where he's like, what happened to the ability to, he said you can't love people because we have a litmus test, like, by political parties. If you don't think what we think, you can't be in our family anymore. You can't be our friend anymore. And he said something really interesting. He said, I love a good argument. I love differing points of view. And I think that's true about Jon Stewart if you really watch him. But he said, but I also love grace. Think about that. I also love grace. And he said, I've got people in my family that are to the right of Attila the Hun. I was saying to the right of Hitler, but I think Attila the Hun was to the right of Hitler. So, and he says, oh, I just wiped out the quote. Hold on. And he says, and when people, hold on, let me find it. He said, and when I just lost it. Here he goes. And he said, they're right of Attila the Hun. And when people tell me, like, how can you platform that person on your show? I go, I platform my uncle every fucking Thanksgiving. And by the way, I love him. He's this is my new favorite thing. He's a three-dimensional human being who has qualities that I really admire, things about him. And we've lost that. And that's the quote. And we've lost it. We litmus test people all day long. And we've lost the ability to see people as three-dimensional human beings. They may have radically different viewpoints than you. That's okay. They're still human beings. And there may be qualities about them you admire that make them remarkable people. They just don't see eye to eye with you. The problem is that works both ways. When you ideologically align yourself with someone, like a lot of the MAGA movement does, and I'll give Marjorie Taylor Greene credit. She's like not. She'll be like, I think what Republicans are doing is wrong here. I think what the president's doing is wrong here. I think he's losing support. When you become that ideological follower, you're no different than the Biden followers who are like, he's fine, he's cognitively good, he's running circles around everyone. You're no different. You're no different than the people who follow Chairman Mao. I went to China in the 80s, mid 80s. Very few Americans were there. I wanted to get a little red book. Couldn't get one in a store anywhere, even though I spoke Chinese enough to do it. People were like, no idea what you're talking about. Asked a friend of mine, a young woman who was in school, in college, Chinese. And she gave me a copy of a red book, a little plastic one. And she's like, this was mine when I was a kid. Have it. They won't give you one. They won't sell you one because you're an American. And I opened it up, and in the front, there were the pictures of all the primary, 1960s, political, late 60s, early 70s political leaders in China. And there was a big X across one. One of one of Mao's close cohorts who had differed with him. And so they had him killed in a plane crash. Isn't that crazy? It's the classic way you wipe out your political rivals. You put them on a plane and crash the plane. Maybe other people die with them, but you go, oh, died in a terrible plane crash. I'm like, you crossed him out. She's like, yeah, Chairman Mao, when I was a kid, I was 9, said he was no longer like a good person. That's what you do with a kid in school. Back when I was a kid, you actually had the pictures of kids and you cross out the girl you didn't like or the guy who was bullying you or whatever. I'm like, you are 9 years old and you cross the guy out? She's like, he ceased to exist because Chairman Mao said. When you follow that kind of loyalty, that kind of deranged loyalty, you lose sight of what actually makes it possible. How do I put this? Reverential leadership is not what we need. You can admire Donald Trump. You can see him for what he is, a remarkable force, a remarkable human being who's overcome so much, fought so hard, and is doing so many good things. When you treat him like a messiah, you are at risk of jeopardizing everything we're about. All the king's men, Robert Warren, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. That is a reality. Nobody gets absolute power. And anybody who gets power, it starts corrupting them. And the more power they get, the more corrupt they become. The single check on that is us. Donald Trump has enormous power, and it will corrupt him. It corrupts everybody. The more power he gets, the more corrupt it becomes. There's no variation where that's not true in human life. The check is us. Us saying, we gave you this power, and we respect and admire your use of it, but we keep you in check. The media threw that was their role. They're done. Like most of the media, they don't check anything. They're just diehards for the Democratic Party. They're literally the biggest mouthpiece for the Democrats there are. The judiciary was supposed to be a check, but it's become ideological. All these district judges, just what Trump says, we say no. Congress, we're the only remaining check, folks. It's us. So we got to keep that in mind. And it's not safety over freedom. It's freedom over safety. Thanks for watching the Nightcap. I know this wasn't as funny as David or Hotep, but legends live forever, whatever that means to you. Thanks again for watching.
Valuable company in the world right now is NVIDIA.
China gonna have to bow down, man. China is going to have to bow down.
Good evening